morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Nerd Coast Nostra, and this is Reign of Horror. Hope everyone is having a good day and a good evening. If you are, depending upon when you're watching this, if you are already into the next day beyond me, I hope you're having a good morning. And we have some updates, some disappointing news today. Some disappointing news. I think for many of you, for some of you who were expecting to see this sequel happen after so many years, and now we've gotten confirmation that the sequel is no more on a cult classic that many of us were again hoping to see. Now, I think maybe it's just, when it comes to sequels, my opinion is if too much time goes by, they tend not to happen depending upon the star power behind it. And I think when it comes to the horror genre, even for cult classics, if too much time has gone by and there hasn't been a number of sequels, again, let's remove out a lot of the OG franchises that have gotten sequels over the years, and there's been consistent sequels over the years, right? When you have in the horror genre, I think when you run into a 10, 15, 20 year some gap, anything beyond those timelines, it's hard for studios to greenlight something, put money behind something. Now, I'm hoping that changes, and you've heard me say this many times. I'm hoping with some of the franchises and some of the like with Terrifier 3 was another sequel, the third film to a franchise, an existing franchise. But some of the other horror films we've seen this year that were very successful, got a lot of attention, and now those directors and creators are pushing the agenda especially for the upcoming award season, to get those films and actors and actresses potentially nominated for awards, which is not common. It's not common at all for our genre. I know Longlegs is one of them. Longlegs is one of them where they're the creators and director behind that are really pushing to get not just the film, but pretty much almost in every category some nomination, right? And again, it's not something that happens at all or even often for our genre, but I think it needs to. I think it needs to start happening. There's some great work being done. There's some great actors and actresses putting in the time, putting in the work, and have some great performances. And they need to be recognized for that. I think they need to be recognized for that outside of these various international, viewings and shows and awards. I mean, I think. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying those aren't important. I'm not saying those aren't great recognitions. They absolutely are. And if that's where we will continue to get recognition and get noticed, hey, that's awesome. I say let's keep pushing forward and let's keep making a name for the genre. However, we do know, though, there's a standard, unfortunately, within Hollywood, especially here in the U.S., where if you're getting your Oscar nominated or Academy Award or whatever, those are some of the things that many of these actors and actresses are aiming for and would like to have either. I mean, I'm sure many of them would love just to have a nomination, to be nominated, but then obviously to win an award. Now, I think that'd be an amazing feat for the horror genre to really put its foot in the sand, so to speak, right? To draw a line in the sand to say, hey, you know what? We're here, right? We need to be recognized for the work that we're doing, for the fire that we're putting out there, that the fans are loving and enjoying and asking for more, right? So I'm hoping with some of the things we've seen this year that come award season next time around, I do hope there are some nominations, and I hope it does raise the eyebrows of some studio execs and some higher ups to say, wait a minute, whoa, that film got nominated, maybe I need to go check out that film. Or maybe we need to start putting some of that out there. Maybe we need to start backing some of these films and these creators to create this stuff, because it's what the fans are wanting. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for other content, but I think we're an overlooked genre, and we need to get some more recognition for what gets put out there. It's not all campy, it's not all slasher, it's not all just this an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 35 minutes of just nothing but basic mid-level writing and script and acting. There's some great stuff being done, and again, I think it deserves some recognition. So Anyways, again, so we got a few topics tonight that we'll go through. But before we do so, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Definitely helps us out. And please give a like for this video. If you have anything you'd like to share with us here at Reign of Horror on the video and the content, or anything you would like to see in the future, please drop a comment in the comment section, and we will definitely check it out and see what we can do. All right, so let's get into our first topic of the evening. Neil Marshall can't make Dog Soldiers 2, so he'll make the Werewolves of London instead. So yeah, it doesn't look, so it goes on to say the subheadline, it doesn't look like Neil Marshall will be able to make Dog Soldiers 2, so he's returning his focus to the Werewolves of London. So, I mean, that might come as a surprise, not a surprise to many of you. I know just a few days ago, it seemed like there was a possibility for this sequel to happen. And again, that was just a couple days ago, and here we are now. It's not going to happen. So let's get into some of these details here. Director Neil Marshall made one of the all-time coolest werewolf movies with his 2002 film, Dog Soldiers. So it's shocking that we've never gotten a sequel, especially considering we're living in a world where an American werewolf in Paris exists, and there have been 8 Howling movies. And see, that's what I'm. Hold on a second, guys. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of that ad there. So that's what I'm talking about, right? So you have 8 Howling movies. You have 8 sequels to that. But let's think about over the time span that those 8 movies happened. So let's don't forget about that. That's what I was trying to refer to earlier. A few years ago, Marshall said there was more of a chance of the sequel happening than ever before. But in a recent interview, he said he featured that Dog Soldier 2 is dead in the water. Now he has taken to social media to confirm that there's little to no hope of Dog Soldier 2 ever happening. So he's going to make a different werewolf movie, The Werewolves of London, instead. So let's get down to the quote here, which is, I think, the most important part. So Marshall wrote on Instagram, "Since so many fans keep asking, I feared I couldn't keep the disappointing news to myself any longer. Your unwavering loyalty deserves better. For the past 6 years, myself and original UK producer of Dog Soldiers, Christopher Figg, have been working tirelessly to negotiate for the rights to make a sequel with the US producer/rights holder, David E. Allen, and his company, Dash. 6 years. That's as long as it took to write and make the first movie. Unfortunately, these negotiations came to a sudden and unexpected halt when earlier this year we were due to finalize and sign the agreements, and they disappeared, vanished, cut off all communication, refused to answer emails or calls. Why, you ask? I don't know why. That's the point. We simply don't know what happened or why, but the end result is we don't have the rights to make a sequel. Without this deal in place, thus rendering it effectively dead. I'm sorry, we tried, we really did." And in Chris Figg's case, spent a lot of money on legal fees doing so. We wanted this for you, for all the countless fans who've asked for it, but in the end, perhaps it's just not meant to be. The original film was lightning in a bottle, and perhaps lightning doesn't, and in some cases, shouldn't strike twice, so there it is. So last quote we have here, 19 hours later, he revealed that he hopes to make a separate project called The Werewolves of London. Quote, "Since I dropped such a clanger last night, I thought I'd give fans a little moonlight at the end of the tunnel today. While I do not have the rights to make Dog Soldiers sequel, there's nothing to stop me making another werewolf movie, which is exactly what I intend to do. It's early days, and I'm not giving away any plot details just yet. The plan is to bring as many of the original team back for this as possible, and then we all need is money to make it," which, it's typically what everyone needs for a movie is money to make it. So he had this on his Instagram as well, which was a Dog Soldiers 2 poster. And then, this is the post that we read through. And then he also provided this like what looked like a poster for the Werewolves of London as well. And again, the quote we just read through, and that rounds it out. So yeah, some disappointing news. But again, like I mentioned at the beginning of as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, right? You can't allow so much time to pass, especially in our genre, before a sequel gets done. When in 2002, we're going on 23 years since the first film. In 2002, when you say that out loud, it doesn't. You think, oh, that's not that long ago. That's like what, 5-6 years ago? No. It's 2024, people. It's been almost 23 years since we got that film. Now, I'm not saying it didn't deserve a sequel. I'm not saying he shouldn't have had the ability to at least do a sequel. But when you, for whatever reason, you don't own the rights to it, and all of a sudden the person who does own the rights says, "Yep, I'm not taking your call anymore. I'm not answering your email anymore. You're on my block list. Deuces." You know, what else can you really do? I mean, besides say, you know what, we tried. It's unfortunate that they spent a lot of money in legal fees. You would think they'd have some recourse there potentially, especially if they were right up to the point to sign an agreement. You would think there'd be some recourse to say, "Hey, you wasted our time. We spent all this money on legal fees. Now we're going to come out to you for legal fees because for whatever reason." But I highly doubt there is any recourse there. Now, had they signed the agreement and then things would have started to fall apart, I'm sure then they would have had recourse to say, "Hey, we have an agreement. We were going to do this. Now we're going to come out at you for damages." That's probably more likely. But nothing in writing, nothing signed. You have your legal team. I have my legal team. We pay our own fees, and if we decide to, not answer the phone anymore, then that's what we decide not to do. So, unfortunate, but to his point, nothing stops him from making a different werewolf movie. And who knows? He may take aspects of his story and change them up just enough so where the rights owner can't say, "Well, hey, that's pretty much a Dog Soldier sequel," right? So we'll see. It's unfortunate, but you can't allow so much time to pass, especially within the horror genre, before trying to attempt a sequel, and then it just doesn't pan out. And they were close. It sounds like they were close, but again, that's one side of the story. What was the individual? Let's go back down real quick. What was the person's name? David E. Allen. I mean, he may have a different version of the story of what was going on between him and them to try to get this deal done, and it didn't work out. So we're only going based on what we know, and what we know is one side was trying to make it work, and one side apparently decided to no longer communicate, right? But again, unless we see something come out from David E. Allen or his company Dash saying, "Hey, well, hold on, that's not the whole story. That's not what happened. Let's not get twisted here. This is what we got to go by." So obviously we're not getting it, and he's just going to move on and try to create something else, which, to his point, he's not releasing any details on it yet, and there's no dates, no nothing. So it's very, very early on in the process. But something I thought was at least sharing was around, because I know Dog Soldier is the first one, is loved by many, but definitely no sequel going to be happening for it. So there you go. All right, so moving on to our next topic is in a violent nature. So I've touched on this one, I think, one other time, and that was recently about the news on the sequel, right? It seemed like this film. Reminder, I didn't care for the film. I wanted to love this film. I was excited for this film when it got announced, when we started seeing some images in the trailer. I was hyped for it. Definitely was all in for it. I think I watched it on release night when it came out, and it was just disappointing. I was disappointed. Again, this is me. This is my opinion, and that's all it is my opinion. Obviously, many people had to have loved it. It had to have garnered enough love for them to literally greenlight a sequel within, I think, a week of the release of the first film. So it obviously did something right. But I came across, so we reported on that. We reported on the fact that it is getting a sequel. That the actor who plays the killer is coming back to play the part again. The script is still early on, so there's a lot of unknowns still for the sequel, right? There's no script done. All we know is one actor's coming back, and that's it. So while it's being greenlit, while you have that one aspect happening, this could still pan out not to happen. It could still pan out where the script isn't good. They rewrite, and they finally say, "Yeah, we're not doing this. Cancel the project. Move on." But I came across this article. I briefly scanned it, and there were some things that stood out to me that I thought were interesting. And as you've heard me say before, and you'll always continue to hear me say, I love behind the scenes stuff. I love when you find like those movie mistakes in the movie that were left there, whether intentional, not intentional. They didn't have enough money to reshoot that scene, so it stayed. Whatever the case may be, I always find those things interesting. And when I come across them here and there, I think it's worth sharing. So in this case, 9 things we learned from the In a Violent Nature commentaries. So we're not going to read through these, line by line, but I did want to share some of them because I thought they were just very interesting as far as how they tied back to the film. So this first part is just a brief introduction summary about it. The two audio commentaries for it. So let's just jump right into the details. So the first film was influenced by Gus Van Sant. So I think many of us probably knew that to a degree. But nonetheless, still interesting to know what influences some of these creators, these directors, when they're coming up with their stories or their versions of an event, like what drives them as far as that inspiration or reference material. And in this case, we see here, and Gus, as you see here, only foray into the horror genre is his shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. But it goes on to talk a little bit more. But that's not the surprising one. I think the next one is the surprising one. And again, I scanned this. So Dirks drew inspiration from the Ninja Turtles movie. I wanted to say the full name. Dirk also mentions looking at Gus Van Sant's films along with the likes of Barry Lyndon and the work of Alan Clark. But he also drew influence from an unlikely source, the first live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And this is the one from 1990. And it goes on, the quote is, Ninja Turtles 1990 was actually a big influence for the visual look of this film. It has such a lovely, naturalistic glow to it, but it also has a bit of a grit, he explains. So he goes on to quote a little bit more. But I just thought you wouldn't think a horror movie, nonetheless, and this horror movie, that the creators, they would take inspiration from the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action film. You could have given me 100 guesses, and I would not have picked that one in any of my 100 guesses. So, bit of an interesting take. The original film was scrapped and reshot with only one shot making it into the final film. Well, maybe, again, my opinion, maybe they shouldn't have. Maybe they should have just kept the original film. Who knows? For me, it might have been better. But it goes on to say here, after shooting 78% of the film and reviewing an assembly of the footage, Nash made the difficult decision to scrap it and start from scratch. Wow, that's a lot of work to then just start over and then say we're only going to use one shot from what we took originally, right? I'm sure that had to have cost a little bit of money and obviously a lot of time to do that. But hey, he obviously knew what he wanted, and what they did the first go around wasn't what he wanted. So, if it's on his dime or he can get the investors to pony up the additional money to do it, hey, more power to you, I guess. Nash was not allowed on the property for the opening scene. The opening scene was filmed on location from the original shoot, but Nash was no longer allowed on the property for an undisclosed reason. Quote, the location was from the first shooting, and between the first and second attempts, I was not allowed on the property anymore, he says. When asked why, he coyly replies, we're not going to get into it. So that's interesting. And it does nothing ever say, it goes on to say exactly why he wasn't allowed back on the property. So I'm sure that will come out at some point. I'm sure at some point an actor or somebody else that was on set will release as to what happened and why. So I have no doubts we will eventually find out what happened, why you couldn't get back on the property. So, all right, number 5. Multiple versions of the mask were built. Not surprised there. Typically what happens in any horror film where there's a mask involved, there's going to be various iterations of a mask. So, yeah, not surprised by that. The yoga kill was shot at 3 different times. Okay. Number 7, several Friday the 13th franchise actors were considered for the film. Okay. Not Surprising, not surprising, depending upon what role they would have been playing. But I mean, many actors and actresses who are in the horror genre typically stay in the horror genre because they have that niche, that this is what they enjoy, what they are good at. This is the genre they want to stay in. So they typically bounce around from either franchise to franchise or obviously from film to film. So not surprised to hear that. So no big deal there. The film was shot in 4:3 for both practical and nostalgic purposes. That makes no difference to me. I'll watch it whether it is in that format or not. And there's more fun facts here. So number 9 is just more fun facts. So there we have a poster. Okay, so let's read some of these fun facts real quick, since there's just a list of them. The original cut for the film ran nearly 15 minutes longer, more than the extended walking scene with more extended walking scenes. Okay, definitely didn't need more of that. Timothy Paul McCarthy, who plays Chuck, was in Nash's ABCs of Death 2 segment. Z is for Zygote, and his co-star is the short Delphine Rousseau, appears in a photo of the dresser in Chuck's house. Editor Alex Jacobs' father, Tom Jacobs, voices Johnny's dad in flashbacks. The Ranger Danger 2014 photo found in the park ranger office features Barrett, first assistant director Kristen McCulloch, who played Pandora in Psycho Gorman, and set decorator John Rhodes. Barrett watched the Animal Attack videos to prepare for his role as Johnny. I mean, I don't know those necessarily fun facts, and they're interesting facts, but I wouldn't say they're fun. Some behind the scenes type information on A Violent Nature. If you, especially for those of you who enjoy the film, again, I know there's many of you out there who enjoyed it. It just wasn't for me, and I really wanted this to be for me. And maybe it will be someday. Maybe it'll be one of those like I've done before. I watch something, I don't necessarily care for or like it, but I revisit it, a few months later down the road or a year down the road. I give it another try, and then it tends to grow on me, and I tend to like it, and then it turns out to be one of my favorites. So, I mean, I'll definitely give it a second try at some point, but not anytime soon, because again, that's where I stand on the film. So, but again, I'm open to giving it another shot. All right, our last topic of the evening. Which is something we are all, I can't imagine any of us in our community is not looking for, trying to get rid of all these ads, is not looking forward to this film. The Nosferatu marketing campaign will not reveal the title character until the film's release, which I love that. I love they're taking that approach. I love they're taking that position. I wish many other films would do the same, because I think sometimes we get in teaser trailers, set photos, movie posters, character posters, you name it, marketing materials, they tend at times to give too much away, where it takes away that surprise aspect to a film. And I know personally, I've been waiting for this film for a long time. Since it got announced, since the casting and the director, I have been waiting for this film. And every time we get a little tidbit, I'm always excited to see what we're going to get. But the fact that we're not going to get this aspect, I'm not disappointed at all. I am glad they're going to keep this one under wraps until the film is released. And I'm sure once this film drops, I mean, there's already been some previews of it by many people who are speaking nothing but praises about it. And obviously from those individuals, nothing would get leaked. I mean, I would hope nothing would get leaked, but if it did, I'm sure there'd be some repercussions from that. Now, when the general audience gets to go see it on Christmas Day this year, I fully expect it to get leaked. So if you don't see it that first day, and you don't avoid spoilers that first day and try to see it that very next day, you're going to get spoiled. So let's just jump into some of these details, and we're going to wrap it up for the evening. So we are just about a month and a half away from Christmas, which means we're a month and a half away from the release of director Robert Eggers' the new movie Nosferatu, a fresh take on the classic horror movie from Focus Features. Bill Skarsgård is playing Nosferatu / Count Orlok in the film, whose appearance has been hidden from the film's marketing up to this point. And a new preview piece from Entertainment Weekly today suggests that will remain the case until the day of December 25th, 2024. Quote, only when audiences arrive in theaters on premiere day this Christmas will the general public see the results of the full hair, makeup, and prosthetics. Entertainment, end quote. Entertainment Weekly also notes that the hiding of Nicolas Cage's look in long legs by Neon's marketing campaign only confirmed that this was the right direction for Nosferatu. Quote, I think the best way to discover Orlok is through the movie for the first time. Bill Skarsgård tells Entertainment Weekly the movie functions on that as well. He lives in the shadows for a long time, and it teases the reveal of the character as the movie progresses. Goes on for a little bit more quotes, and then just wraps it up. And then we have these images which we've already seen. That some of these first images from the film that got dropped by Entertainment Weekly. So nothing new here on these images, and that's where it wraps up. So again, I'm glad that they're going to keep this one under wraps. I'm glad you're going to need to go see it, assuming, again, hopefully you see it in the first day or so, because otherwise it's going to get spoiled. Definitely it's going to get spoiled. So we are definitely seeing this one. I'm going to try and see it opening weekend. If not, I will definitely be avoiding spoilers and trying to see it that following Monday morning after Christmas. So we'll be giving a non-spoiler review, but then once this hits at least digital, we will get a copy of it. We will try to do a watch party on this one as well, and then soon after give a spoiler review of our take on the film. So there will be a lot more to come on this release. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for the show. Again, I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day and spending it with me here at Reign of Horror. Just again, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Give a like on the video, and if there's something you would like to see in future episodes, or if you have any thoughts on our takes on the topics, please drop a comment in the comment section below. Otherwise, have a great evening, and we will see you at the next one. Peace.